So hi, everybody, and welcome to the webinar. This is the Instructional Design and Learning Special Interest Group, and we have a monthly webinar series, and today we're really excited to welcome back Rachel Eichen. She entertained us with a presentation about training, how to keep people awake, and we learned if you're teaching vocabulary, make a crossword puzzle. We learned a lot more than that, but that was one of the things I walked away with. Today, Rachel's going to tell us about memes, which I think most of us know a little bit about memes, but we're going to find out what we don't know about memes. I do want to read Rachel's official bio. She's had a varied career history across multiple fields of communication, technology, and training. She's over 10 years of in-person and remote teaching experience in a variety of industries, including, and then my favorite, casinos, people, financial institutions, restaurants, hospitals, libraries. She even taught a computer class on a cruise ship, and she told us a little bit about that at the last webinar. That's got to be the job of a lifetime. Anyway, she's experienced training all sorts of software applications, Microsoft Office, Adobe Photoshop, web applications, Google Apps, Facebook. In a former life, she was a technical writer where she learned about software lifecycle and documented instructions. She also has a variety of technical skills, including programming, networking, web design. She has a master's degree in library and information science, bachelor's degree in tech writing, and I learned yesterday that she's a nerd about tea. So she's got sort of a constellation of all kinds of interesting superpowers, and she's going to share them with us today. A little bit of housekeeping. Everybody's got microphone rights. Rachel, do you want us to engage with you or hold our questions?
No, definitely engage with me. I will be watching the chat. If you feel more comfortable chatting, you can, it's a small group, so if you think of a question, you can unmute yourself too. This is very informal. I will ask questions throughout the presentation, so it's definitely not a hold your questions until the end, and feel free to be as interactive as you want. So
great.
I don't mind.
And it makes our recording better if we mute our cameras. I guess I'm going to turn my video off. There we go. And I'm going to get in the speaker view. There we go, so that I see Rachel. So Rachel, take it away. You are all mic'd up, and we are excited about what you have to tell us.
All right. So first rule of training, I brought up my PowerPoint. Just want to make sure everybody can see it. So can you just let me know in the PowerPoint in the chat if that you can see it before I start talking? Yes. All right, good. Always the first rule. You don't want to start talking until you can see it. People have to tell you politely that they can't see it. All right, so I'm going to be talking today about memes, as mentioned before. And my presentation is called, What Does This All Meme? And if you're wondering why there's a Mona Lisa holding a dog, we'll get to that in just a second. But first, what I want to know is how much you know about memes. So you may think to yourself, I don't know what a meme is, and at this point, I'm too afraid to ask. Or you might see a picture of a bunch of cats and not sure why these cats are here. But what I want to know is, how much do you know about memes? So on a scale from 1 to 10, so 1 being, I am this guy, I don't know anything about a meme, to 10 being, I am the ultimate meme lord. If you would in that chat, just rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. And if you recognize any of these cats, you can't give yourself a 1. You have to give yourself like at least a number higher than a 1. So we get some. All right, so we got a nice little assortment. I'm seeing 8, 7s, 5s, a 9.5. I like how Jamie doesn't want to commit. I too would not give myself. I'd probably give myself a something like that. I see some 5s. Very, very cool. All right, so if you are a 1, no worries. We are going to start from the very beginning. I have created this presentation assuming that you know nothing about memes. But if you know about memes, it's even better. But we will start from the very beginning, so don't worry. So On today's agenda, we're going to talk about what exactly is a meme. We're also going to talk about why you should care, because some of you probably know what memes are, but I really want to talk about why they're important, especially in the field of training. And then finally, how can you learn more? Because the problem is, one does not simply teach a meme class. I would love to sit here and tell you all the memes and all the everything that's ever existed, but that would take too much time. So what I've done, so for an example, here's a meme that I've just used. I've included a link below so that you can click on that link where you can learn more. So you'll see these links throughout the presentation, and then I have a link on SlideShare where you can download this. So all these links, you can learn more about all these different memes. So let's first talk about where the word meme came from. So it was actually coined by a guy named Richard Dawkins in his book, The Selfish Gene. And he said that memes are our ideas, ideals, cultures, and customs that we replicate. And that almost like a virus, they travel through imitation, sharing, and repetition. So let me give you an example. Something like eating with a fork and knife is an example of a meme in the sense that Richard Dawkins created. It's something that somebody did and we saw somebody else do, and we said that's a very efficient way to eat food. So we've been copying that and using it, and it has just continued throughout our culture for quite a while. So something like that is a meme. Something like art is a meme. So you saw the Mona Lisa earlier, and this is also an example of a meme. And Mona Lisa especially has been seen so much that it's been parodied and it's been shared and it's been imitated. Even the act of painting is a meme. So taking paint and putting it on a canvas is a meme because it's something that we learned and have evolved over time. So you may say to yourself, well, isn't everything a meme then? And yeah, I mean, pretty much everything can be a meme. And then another thing you might say to yourself is, well, memes are existed before the internet? So yes, what if I told you memes actually existed before the internet? This word was coined way before online access was a thing. And so Richard Dawkins was talking about cultural memes, but now I want to shift to internet memes, which is really what we think of when we think of memes today. And one thing I want to show, and I want to show you too, before I talk about internet memes, I want to show you how memes existed before the internet. And advertisers love memes. If there's one thing you take away from this presentation, that's an important one. Advertisers love memes because it gets in your head and it works. So I want to show you an example of what I mean exactly. So here's a phrase you might have heard. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's, right? Some of you may know the answer to that. I don't even have to complete it. But and I see in the chat, some people are already typing, right? So yeah, so it's a very popular phrase that is stuck in your head. You probably haven't heard it for years. Or how about another one? Break me off a piece of that. Right? If you know the answer, then you'll know the phrase. So it's not just advertisers, though, that use memes. Memes can also be good for PSAs. So let me show you another example. Only you can prevent, right? An example. It sticks in your head. You probably haven't heard it for years. And then it's not just advertisers, but it's also TV shows and movies. So TV shows, Live from New York, it's, right? So these are all ways that we can get in your head and kind of stay there and kind of access your subconscious. So it's a very, very helpful tactic. So it's not just TV shows, but movies too. So for example, frankly, my dear, ... That's an example of something of a movie phrase that we've probably heard. Or Luke, I am your father. And what's interesting about this phrase specifically, Luke, I am your father, is any Star Wars nerd will tell you this is not actually the line from Star Wars, but this is an example of how sometimes memes deviate from their source material. So the phrase, Luke, I am your father, became more popular than the actual phrase in the movie. And once again, not just movies, but jokes as well. So why did the chicken cross the road? We've probably heard the answer to this, as well as variations and parodies and things like that. Usually something becomes so popular, it becomes parodied. That's usually what happens to memes. And then this one, maybe more for the ladies, but fellas, maybe you might know it too, is Miss Mary Mac Mac Mac. If you remember the clapping games and that sort of thing, also very popular. One of those things that just through repetition we learned and we just did over and over and became part of our culture. And I like the little Star Wars chat going on in the comments there. All right, so so now I mentioned those are early memes, or sorry, those are pre-internet memes. So now I want to talk to you about internet memes. And for those of you that have been on the internet for quite some time, you may recognize this picture. And if you don't worry. This was probably what was first the original meme that spread on the internet. And this was called the Dancing Baby. And it was an animated GIF. And yes, I said GIF. That's how the creator says it's pronounced. So I know there's going to be a war, but I call it GIF. So this was something that was shared, and we didn't have social media. This was, I think, 97, 98. We didn't have social media. We didn't really have YouTube. So the way it was shared was through email, through web pages. So if you remember GeoCities and Angel Fire and Tripod, shared through those. It was shared on bulletin boards, but it was shared across through people, and it became so popular, it actually leapt from the internet to popular culture. So it was on Ally McBeal, and it was used in commercials. So this is probably one of the very first example of internet memes that's around today. And then that led into probably the next most important meme, which were LOLCats. And so when I talk about LOLCats, I want you to pay attention to two things. I want you to pay attention to the font. And for you font nerds, the font specifically is Impact. So this font right here is Impact. And then the poor grammar and spelling. So it's not just the font, but it's the fact that the cat is saying, Eichen has cheeseburger. He's not communicating, or she, I don't want to assume it's gender. The cat is not communicating properly. So it doesn't speak English properly, and it spells words wrong. So this is kind of a assumption, if you will, and so it's carry on throughout LOLCats. And so this is the very first LOLCat that was created, and just like Dancing Baby, this was shared, and it would have been fine. But what really kind of made it take off was the fact that people created variations of it using these two elements. So let me show you an example. So here's an example of another LOLCat. So it's a picture of a cat. The caption says, "I has a money. What do I do with it?" Doesn't spell properly, doesn't understand human currency. And there's definitely that adorableness of playing into the fact that it's a cat and the internet loves cats. But just to kind of show you, we're taking those elements of the previous picture and we're using it here. So we're keeping that essence, but we're creating a new picture. Now, animals not communicating properly with humans is not new with LOLCats. That's actually been done for quite a while. So I want to ask you guys, can anybody think of an example, maybe in advertising, where when animals are talking to humans, they don't talk properly? Or they don't write properly, I should say. They don't write properly. Can anyone think of any examples? I'll give people a second. I see Marcia got it in the chat. Yes, Chick-fil-A is probably the most notable example. And they were probably the ones that really brought this concept in the mainstream that animals communicating with humans, they're not going to spell properly. And actually the cows, their grammar was pretty good. It was just the spelling. So the LOLCats took it a step further. And then actually before Chick-fil-A, even comic strips like Far Side would use that concept of when animals were writing, they wouldn't spell things properly. So I think, you know, all these ideas kind of play off each other, but I think it's very interesting. All right, so that we talked about LOLCats, and so that kind of leads into probably what I think are the most common memes in use today, and probably what people think of when they think of memes. So here's an example of what is called an image macro. So this is a picture. Now we're using a human, so we're back to proper English again. And so this says, "Not sure if teaching a class on memes or using this as an excuse to make more memes." And this meme follows a very similar format. It's always not sure if blank and then or blank. And there's tons and tons and tons of examples of this with this meme. Another popular meme, here's another example, is a Dos Equis guy. I don't always teach a class on memes, but when I do, I use the world's most interesting man. And I mentioned that this is the Dos Equis guy. So remember how I told you that advertisers love memes? So every time this meme gets shared, it is Dos Equis gets some free advertising. And so Melissa actually asked, who is this guy? So this guy was actually in a Dos Equis commercial. And random fact, I actually got to meet this guy at like a random signing in Vegas. That's besides the point. But this guy's from a Dos Equis commercial. And his whole shtick was that he was the world's most interesting man. And so people kind of took this and created a meme out of it where it follows the format of, I don't always blank, but when I do, I blank. So like the most interesting man would say, you know, I don't always drink. I forget what his original line was. See, and then that's the actual point, is that you don't have to know the source material. It's kind of the sharing that it becomes. And I like how Melissa said, I thought for a long time it was Alex Trebek with a beard. It does kind of look like Alex Trebek with a beard. I can totally see that. So you don't have to really know the source material of these. And I'm kind of jumping a little ahead here, but my recommendation when you're using memes is the more simpler meme, the better. So, and thank you. It was, I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I drink Dos Equis. Thank you for clarifying what the exact line is. I didn't want to butcher it, but I knew it was something similar to that. So he said, I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I drink Dos Equis, and then people kind of manipulated that. But yeah, Dos Equis love the free advertising. And now I always see this guy and I associate him with Dos Equis. So these are examples of image macros. As you'll see in a little bit, they were created very quickly. And that's what makes memes really popular, is that they can be created very quickly. And Kelly said, I actually never knew it was from an ad, right? So you don't even have to know that these are from ads then. And sometimes that's even better. Sometimes the advertisers like when you don't know it's an ad, because then you're more receptive to it. And then you're more engaged with it, because we usually turn off when we know things are ads. So there's a lot of sort of psychology there too. But I wish Dos Equis was smart enough to do this, but it's really the internet's doing. They just created a very good advertising campaign, and people kind of ran with it. And that's an advertiser's dream, right? The internet takes something and moves it forward without you as an advertiser having to do anything. There have been instances, this is totally off track, but there have been instances of brands trying to create memes, but they often fail. So when you force something to go viral, it generally doesn't. So it's kind of great when it happens, but no one can quite get that magic formula, so to speak. It's very tricky. And I'm loving all these comments, by the way. So here's another example. This one it's an older meme, but for some reason, it just every so often it's popped up and still maintained its stance. So this is called Doge, and this follows the example of poor English, poor grammar, but now we're not using that impact font. We're using Comic Sans MS, and I am not a fan of Comic Sans MS, but I don't make the memes. I just teach the rules. So this is an example. We can see that the dog has this sort of scared, happy, confused look on its face and has a lot of thoughts all around it. And Melissa said no one is a fan of Comic Sans. I know. You guys are gonna get me on tangents here. Comic Sans actually, it was originally meant for, its original name was Comic Sans MS. It was actually meant for a Microsoft program, Microsoft Comic Chat. I don't know if any of you guys remember that, but that's what it was made for. And so it was made to be written really, really small and look really good at like 10 point type or smaller. But the problem is that people took this font and like made it huge, and it's not really made to be displayed at like anything above 10 point. So in Comic Sans defense, people are just using it wrong and overusing it, but I still like to hate on it because it's kind of that go-to bad font. And I think the meme was created with that in mind, that it's a childish font, and this dog is having childish thoughts. But anyway, so this is what's called Doge, and this took a stock photo. It originally started with this photo, and then they put the text on top of it. And what's really interesting about Doge, and yes, Doge is spelled D-O-G-E, and it's pronounced as Doge, which is a very weird pronunciation. What's interesting about this meme, though, is that this actually transcended into cryptocurrency. So somebody actually made a cryptocurrency about Doge, which is still alive and well today. It was actually started as a joke, and I had a friend that actually bought some in 2014 about or 2015, 16 as a joke, and they're not laughing anymore. It's actually done pretty well. So it's really interesting how memes kind of transcend their image format and become more popular things like that. And yes, Melissa, Doge is Doge. Timothy linked to a Wikipedia page of Doge of Venice. And actually, speaking of sources, so I've included a link to learn more about Doge, but also I've included a very well-written academic article about how to speak Doge, because there is a very specific way. So if you notice, like it'll say much training up here, and if you're like, that makes no sense. Basically, if you want to speak Doge, you just throw all the rules you learned about English out the window, and that's how we've done this here. So yeah, so that is Doge for you. And also things that can be memes. So we talked about image macros, but years and phrases can also be memes. So I think 2020 was the first one that actually became a meme. And of course, the joke is March 2020, we're all wide-eyed and happy. And March 2021, we're angry, sad, old Yoda here. So and Baby Yoda itself was sort of a meme as well. And what's interesting is, even though we learned Baby Yoda's name, people still call it Baby Yoda. So some people just don't, want to, just like the GIF thing, right? Some people still call it GIF, even though the creator has said this is how it's pronounced. So we just kind of got into a habit. So I talked about memes. So now let's talk about how memes spread. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to pause. And take a break. Does anybody have any questions before I jump in? And I'll take a little sip of water here. Oh no, I was trying to scroll the chat. All right, I don't see any questions, but feel free to type them in. I am watching the chat, so feel free to type them in as you think of them. All right, so now let's talk about how memes spread. And social media has definitely played a big part in how memes travel so quickly and so fast. So Facebook is a way that memes have spread. And Twitter, another way that memes have spread. And we're going to get into Twitter memes in a second. They're a little bit different than Facebook memes, but they're still valuable. YouTube is a big way that memes spread, especially things like viral videos. Reddit, another popular way that memes spread. And Reddit's really interesting because a lot of memes are born on Reddit. So they start on Reddit and then they kind of branch off into these other social media platforms. And then a newcomer to the scene is TikTok. And if you are hearing TikTok and saying, yeah, I've heard of this TikTok, what exactly is it? Well, that could be a whole class in itself, but I'll try to simplify it for you. So TikTok is a video sharing platform. And let me give you an example of how things spread so quickly in TikTok. So this is an example of a guy skating down on his way to work on a road, drinking ocean spray, singing along to Fleetwood Mac's Dreams. And the sound's not here, but just imagine Fleetwood Mac's Dreams is playing in the background. So this was a video he made. Video is about a minute, not a whole lot to it, but for some reason this really resonated with people. And so people made their own parodies and imitations and spread this video. And it became so popular that Fleetwood Mac's Dreams charted after 30 plus years again, because everyone's hearing the song and it just reached the charts. So who's happy is Mick Fleetwood. So he too made his own TikTok video drinking ocean spray. And then, like we said before, advertisers love memes. So guess who's also happy? The CEO of Ocean Spray. So he is also happy to make a video of him drinking ocean spray. And once again, free advertising, who doesn't love that? So yeah, so that's just an example. And TikTok makes it very easy to share videos and sort of get an audience, which is why it is so popular. So videos can be memes too. And Melissa said, ooh, backwash, right? But yeah, so it was a whole thing. So it was definitely very popular. And so another way that memes have kind of taken over is something called meme stocks. So you might have heard this phrase. Once again, this could be a whole class on itself, but meme stocks get their name because they're stocks that spread in popularity, usually in places that memes spread in popularity, usually on places like Reddit. And so two of the biggest stock symbols are going to be AMC and then GameStop, which is actually the stock ticker GME. And usually they attract new investors or investors without a lot of money. And there, of course, with meme stocks, there are memes made about them. So I mentioned Twitter memes. So here's an example of a meme on Twitter. So she says, me after making $5 for investing in AMC, and then a picture of Adam Sandler saying, this is how I win. So this is actually, this is just an animated GIF, but this right here is Twitter text. So I think what's really interesting is she didn't even make an image. She used an image and then used text to make a tweet. And that is kind of a way of spreading memes as well. So it doesn't always just have to be a picture that you can create. It can sometimes just be pairing a phrase with a picture. So these kinds of memes are very popular on Twitter. All right. So I mentioned earlier that making a meme is actually really, really, really easy. And one of my favorite sites is called imageflip.com. That's actually where I've made a lot of memes that I use in this presentation. And so I just want to show you kind of how cool it is to make a meme. So I'm going to tell you a little story. And this was 3 years ago now. I think it was 3 years ago in July. So I live in Vegas, by the way. I live in Las Vegas. And in the middle of July, our air conditioning went out in July. Right now it's like 115 out. I don't recommend your air conditioning going out in the middle of July. It's not a fun time. Luckily we rented, so that was good. But there was time, it was taking a long time for the air conditioning to get fixed. So it was not a fun week. Let's just put it that way. And I was really frustrated. I was really stressed out. And my husband, to cheer me up, made me a meme. And so the meme is Rachel and Tom's house, so hot right now. And it was a silly meme. It took him maybe a minute or two, but it really cheered me up. He made it in imageflip.com. So, and just an example of how you can make memes just to cheer people up or just to make, have inside jokes, that sort of thing. So that's one way to make memes. Another site to make memes is capwing.com. So ImageFlip is really good for these text impact font type memes here. But don't forget there's other types of memes as well. So here's a little bit variations of them. And so the Doge meme that I showed you earlier with the dog looking scared, that was made in Capwing because there's a little more complex than just impact font. So either site's fine, but all these sites, it won't take you very long to learn. The whole point of memes is that they're easy to make and easy to spread. And then I don't know how many of you actually use Teams, Microsoft Teams, but if you do, you may not know there is a meme button. So they're right next to the animated GIF button, which is also very popular, is the this little Post-it note guy. And under that Post-it note, there's several different categories, and one of them is meme. So you might actually, there's their little Doge buddy. And there's some memes here. So this is a very easy way to make memes. It's not most effective, but if you're just making inside jokes with your coworkers, it's not really a big deal. But I am a little bit of a meme police here. So I will say that you might see a picture with white text and think, is this a meme? Well, it's not automatically a meme if you don't follow the correct rules. So for example, let me show you a picture. Here's a stock photo of a lady, and I put, this is not automatically a meme. So memes do have rules and do have formats they follow. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's why I put the links below everything so you can learn the format and you can learn how the format goes. So just because there's white text doesn't automatically make it a meme. Of course, if you're just sharing it with your coworkers, it's not really a big deal. And so here's an actual photo of me insisting that memes have to be used correctly. And I'll be honest, my friends don't really care because sometimes you're able to get the point across. But I will say it's good to use your memes correctly if you can. And another really, really good resource is knowyourmeme.com. So this is a really good, you'll see me link this throughout the whole presentation. This is my go-to resource for memes. It tells you how the memes use, where it started from. It's super, super valuable. And I'll tell you a little sad story. I actually gave this meme presentation in 2016, I think was the last time I gave it. And I thought, oh, sweet, I've got a whole list of resources at the end of the slideshow. I'll just reuse all these. It'll be great. Guess what? They are all gone. All of them are gone except for Know Your Meme. So we are very fortunate. We still have a reliable resource for memes. I'm glad this website's still around. So that is good. It is a good resource. And then Jamie put that my fave memes to use for coworkers are the Michelle Tanner, you got it, dude, and the Grumpy Cat, no. Yeah, so she was talking about, let's see here. Oh, you can't see the Michelle Tanner here. There's the Grumpy Cat there. So that's really interesting, right? So, and you can go to Know Your Image Flip and use memes too. So you don't have to use memes and memes, but it does make for a good tongue twister. All right, so we've talked a lot about making silly memes, but I do want to talk about using memes for training because I think there's a lot of value in using memes for training, but I also want to stress how important it is to use them correctly for training. Oh, and let me stop for a second before I do this. Pause. I just want to see were there any questions that anyone had. I'm enjoying the lively discussion. I'm going to take a sip of water as well.
And you guys, we do have microphone rights, so if you care to speak up, it will be on the recording, but we would love to hear your voices, so don't be shy.
All right, not hearing any questions. That's all right though. But I will continue on, and I'm watching the chat box as well. So thank you for all the fun discussion there. So ways we can use memes. One is for grabbing attention. So here's an example of a actual signage that was in a digital sign that was in the library at the University of Sterling. And it's that I Can Has Cheeseburger picture again. And then below it, it says, no, you can't in the correct font, and no hot food in the library. So this really gets your attention, right? I mean, it doesn't hurt that it's 6-7 feet tall, but they could have just made a sign that said no hot food in the library. But instead, they chose this route. So this gets you to look at it. You're like, what the heck is this? What the heck's going on? And because it's something that a lot of people know, there's also that humor factor in it. So memes are great for grabbing attention. They're also really good for reinforcing information. And so let me give you a little context on the slide before I work in the casino industry, and a popular topic in the casino industry is how to market to players. So Viqui was talking about how she loves casinos. So she probably gets a lot of mail offers from her favorite casinos saying, hey, Viqui, haven't been in a while. Here's a $20 food credit and $50 free play. You should come back in. And so what we call these are key direct marketing channels. And there are 3 different ways to market to players, mainly. There's direct mail, there's email, and then there's text message. And so a lot of people will say, well, just use email and text message because it's cheaper, it's faster, it's quicker. That's how you should tell people that they have food credits and to come to the casino and that sort of thing. The problem is we get so much email and we get so many text messages that the message is almost kind of lost. And I don't know about you, but when I get something in the mail, I'm like, ooh, this is for me. This is exciting. It's not a bill. It's not junk mail. Like, this is cool. So to illustrate how important direct mail still is, in this presentation that I attended, they also included a meme that says, when some marketing guru says direct mail is dead. And it has 2 guys laughing hilariously. Once again, you don't have to know the source material. You don't have to know that this is from the movie Goodfellas. You just have to know that they're illustrating the concept that direct mail is definitely not dead, even though a lot of people in the casino industry wish it was because it would save them a lot of money. Direct mail is definitely not dead. So this meme helps illustrate that concept. I want to point out to you, though, if we didn't have this meme on the slide, while it would be more of a boring slide, all the information is right here. So this is just reinforcing a point. We're not necessarily giving new information in the meme. And that's the key. That's the importance, is don't give new information in the meme. Try to stick to one message and have kind of a meme that illustrates that message. And then also having memes and presentations, it gets your attention, right? How many times have we seen a PowerPoint slide with just boring old bullets, but all of a sudden you throw a meme in, all of a sudden I'm paying attention now. And actually, side note, my husband is actually giving a presentation right now, The Joys of Working from Home. We're side by side in different offices. He's actually giving a presentation where he has incorporated some memes. So he too understands the value of it, in a very technical presentation, I should add. All right, so that's one way to use memes. Another way is to connect with younger audiences. So this is an example of a elementary school teacher that has a PowerPoint that illustrated her class rules. And she's talking about the class materials you'll need. And here's the list. But then she has a meme. And just to kind of connect with her younger audiences, buy all the school supplies. And she actually has her whole PowerPoint online. It's really, really funny. But this is just kind of a way to get people's attention because class rules are boring and a lot of people have a hard time paying attention to that. Speaking of class materials, I don't know if you caught this, there's Keurig donations, which I thought was really interesting because I didn't have Keurig machines in school. We just had soda vending machines. So this is probably a little bit healthier, but I thought that was really interesting. So I mentioned that she has a lot of memes in her presentation, and so I do think it's worth a look. But there's another meme that she used that I thought was pretty good. It was a Wonka meme, and it says, "So you want more extra credit? How about doing all the regular credit?" So I thought that was pretty funny. And so you don't have, now we've been talking about us as educators creating memes, but we can also use memes for the learners to demonstrate new information. So another example that I saw was a math teacher that had his students create math memes based on what they had created, or sorry, based on new information that they had learned. So let me show you a couple examples. One is, I was graphing an exponential function. Well, that escalated quickly, demonstrating that he understands exponential functions and how they work. So that's an example of a math meme that a student created. Or here's a vocabulary meme, which says meddle, and then Kermit doesn't meddle in issues that are none of his business. So these are examples of using memes to demonstrate words that, or concepts that are new to people. And then Jamie said, I always enjoyed the Willy Wonka memes and their snark. I think it's interesting, though, with the Willy Wonka meme, that's one of those tricky ones because I often see, so let me go back just to illustrate my point. This is one of those that's a little tricky to use correctly because people forget sometimes that Wonka has to be condescending and sarcastic. So I have seen, when it's done really well, but I would say this is like a level 2 meme. And so I'll show you later in the presentation what I call level 1 memes that I think are very easy to use. But yeah, I do like when a Wonka meme is done well. I do like it. But sometimes
Rachel,
yes?
I think it's Melissa. I think some people use the Dos Equis guy and uses Willy Wonka instead. And it's like it's a mashup of the two. And you're right. Unless you get this snarkiness in there, the Willy Wonka one is not being used correctly. It just sort of goes flat.
And Melissa actually brought up a really interesting point. I would say this is a level 2 concept, but mashing up memes, right? So right now I'm just talking about memes individually, but Melissa mentioned how she's seen this Wonka head on the Dos Equis guy, or Alex Trebek as somebody else referred to them as. So definitely memes become so popular that they do get mashed up and they do have their own set of rules. So it can be complex. So don't get overwhelmed. Like I said, I do try to focus on the simple memes because there are quite a lot of memes and it can be overwhelming.
One quick question.
Yes.
Buy all the school supplies. What is the name of that meme?
So the original part of this meme was the buy all the things, clean all the things. And actually I have it at the end of my presentation, the link to this meme. So it originally was clean all the things, which is why this person's holding the broom. And it evolved into verb, all the noun. So in this instance, they're buy all the school supplies. So just basically a rallying cry to go do
go
something.
Big or go home.
Right, go big. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. So this is
thank you.
Right. So and once again, right, Viqui said that's a broom, right? It's in the comic strip, it makes sense, but a lot of these memes get taken out of their context. So you don't always have to know that this, where this comic came from. And I think Wonka too, and this is, I'm sorry guys, we're gonna date all of us. The Willy Wonka movie is kind of old, so people might not realize the whole point of Willy Wonka's character was to be snarky and sarcastic. So I think that's where people just see, oh, he's got a bow tie and he's got a suit, so he's a jolly fellow, and they're missing the point that Willy Wonka would often be snarky and condescending. So, and also further muddled by the fact that we have Johnny Depp's version where he's not quite that same snarkiness. So I think not knowing the source material sometimes can hinder the meme usage, but you don't always have to know the source material. So, and then Kelly said the comic is the funniest thing I've read. So side note, you guys are getting me on all sorts of tangents. I forget what the comic strip is. Kelly might know it, but this comic strip is, the whole purpose of it is that it's kind of drawn in MS Paint and crudely drawn, but it actually touches on some really like hyperbole and a half. Thank you. I was on the tip of my tongue. This is a really good comic strip for, it's kind of gets kind of deep. Like this person actually went through like a really tough depression, and they talked about kind of how they got out of it and how they recognized it. So I do recommend checking this comic strip out if this kind of art style interests you. But you know, this is of course what's lived on for many years. But yeah, I think it's a good comic strip. So all right, I'm totally off topic. Let me get back. Where was I? Okay. So we've been talking about ways to properly use memes. So I wanted to stress to you, keep it simple and don't use memes just to use memes. And I'm going to give you an example. And I'm going to preface this by saying this is not an actual slide. This is a slide I saw at a presentation that I have recreated. So if the person that created the slide was ever here, I've changed it enough so they don't know that they were the inspiration. So I'm not actually using a real slide for this one. This is an inspired by slide. But at the top, I have, what should my business plan be and how do I get started? And then I have a bunch of memes here. And then I have a bunch of text here. So if you're saying to yourself, what's the purpose? Like where do I go? Like, what do I do? There's a lot of things wrong with this. So one problem is that, remember how I showed you on that earlier slide with the casino marketing? The whole point of that was that direct mail is not dead. That was the whole universal concept. With this slide, I don't know what the concept is, because they're using different memes and they're using them in different ways. And I think they're trying to say a mission statement is important, but they're trying to be funny, but I don't know what's going on. And so this is an example of where I would say, don't use memes just to use memes. If I of course I don't critique these people, but so I don't give them my own personal feedback. But if I would say, if you really want to use memes, try to keep one per slide, unless you have a slide of just memes. So if they really wanted to use all three of these at once, I would have them all be on one slide at once, and then not have this text, not have this text. But my personal philosophy, so I'll just go back and I'll show you my personal philosophy: keep it simple with just one meme. And the problem is that if somebody reads this and they're lost or they're confused, it's okay, because you've got this over here. The more memes you add, the more you risk confusing people if they don't get it. So, and then I would also say, let me go back. I would also say these memes are not what I would call easy memes. I would say these are more complex. They have a nuance of sarcasm and a nuance of, there's a level there that, while they can be funny to people that get them, they might be kind of confusing. So I would just say, try to keep it simple. That's my advice if you're using memes. And yes, Kelly said they missed the one thought per slide rule, right? And as you can see, I'm not a huge fan of text on slides in general. I don't like, this actually isn't too much text, but I think the memes make it more text because they're also very text heavy. So it's just, there's a lot of stuff going on in here. So this is an example of what not to do. And, but like I said, this is not the exact presentation I saw. It was a recreation of one. And then I've also been stressing to you to use the format correctly, because if you don't, especially when you're doing with training, it can either confuse people or worse, make you seem inauthentic. So here's an example of a meme where Drake says no to guessing in a meme format and hoping for the best, but yes to researching and verifying a meme before implementing it. And remember, every meme I've included here has a link to where you can learn more. And then remember that casino presentation I saw? The person that gave that was actually she was in her 40s or 50s. And afterwards I commented her and I said, wow, I love your meme usage. Like all your memes were used correctly. What, you know, I'm amazed. And she said, thank you. My 26-year-old son reviewed them for me. And so that is my advice to you, is if you put anything less than a 9 or a 10 in that chat box when we first started, and you plan to use memes in your presentation, I recommend you show them to a young person, preferably one that is 30 or younger. And I too follow my own advice that I did show it to a younger coworker of mine. And so it's always a success when I found someone young to review my memes before posting them. And I talk about simple memes. I think these are 2 examples of really, really simple memes that are also effective for training. So here, this one is a good example of this is wrong, this is right, very simple. And you don't have to know that this is Drake, right? It certainly helps if you know that this is Drake from the video Hotline Bling. You don't have to know that. You just have to know that he's not happy with this, but he's happy with this. So this is a very good simple meme. This is another example of a really good simple meme. This kid clutching his fist, really happy, this is a good one to illustrate a positive outcome or something happy. And this is also in Microsoft Teams, so you can also play around with this one as well. So these are what I call simple memes that are good for training. All right, so I've been telling you about how to use memes correctly and incorrectly, but now I'm gonna pass the question on to you guys. I'm gonna show you a meme and I'm gonna ask you, is this good meme usage? And if the answer is no, I want you to tell me why. All right, here we go. Tell me in the chat if this is good meme usage. And the dog saying, hello there, I'm a dog, and I think this is very good training. I will take a sip of water and if you say no, tell me why. Okay, so Kelly said it does not follow the format. Timothy said this meme uses Comic Sans. Jamie says cute Doge, but no, wrong font, right? Let's see if there's anybody else, but yeah, so, right, it's not using the font. It's not using the right format. And Vicky said it's very random. Marcia said, what's the message? Exactly, right? It's also not a good, what's the point of this message? So all these things are great answers. So just to remind you, this was what the Doge meme looked like. It had the Comic Sans, it had the, it had this kind of stuff. This is what the format was. So this this lack of font right here, right? Not good meme usage. And if you would have shown this to a kid, they might have instantly tell you that's not right. That's not right. They might not have been able to tell you why, but they can usually spot a meme a mile away. All right, so we've been talking a lot about memes. And so I'm sure there's probably a couple of you that are wondering about the legalities of memes, and you would be right to wonder about the legalities of memes. So are memes fair use? Maybe. It's definitely a gray area. But a good rule of thumb is be original or credit the source. So you'll see in all of this presentation, I've either created my own memes, or when I use other people's memes, I credit the source where I got those memes. Now this, of course, is not, absolute. And I want to stress, this is not legal advice. So if you have questions about how memes are done, you should say, I want to say, check with your legal team. Don't say that, well, Rachel said this. No, Rachel's saying check with your legal team. Because especially when you start getting into using memes in training, I don't want to speak for your organization. And then if you want, there's a ton of articles about copyright and meme usage, but this is a good one to start with, is copyright for meme makers. So some additional resources on memes. First is wikipedia.org, and I put, yes, really, this breaks my librarian heart, but yes, Wikipedia is a fantastic source for memes, because the problem is, if I were to publish a book on memes, it would already be outdated by the time the books come out. Wikipedia is fast enough and quick enough to keep up with the ever-changing landscape of memes. And in Wikipedia's defense, it is very heavily moderated. So I would say for memes, it is a very, very good source. Another good resource is 5 ways to use memes with students. So if you're looking for more ideas for training, it's a little harder to find use of memes with training, but there's lots of stuff about using memes with students, and we can always kind of repurpose that for adult learners. If you were fascinated by the meme concept I talked about earlier, there's actually a TED Talk where the person talks about memes and teams, T-E-M-E-S, which are actually technical memes. And that would describe more of the internet memes. But if you're curious how more of the information behind that about how memes started, there's a really good TED Talk about that. Another really good article was this PBS article called A Brief History of Memes. This also talks about the history of how memes started and how they've kind of evolved in the internet. And then finally, this one I'm going to hesitantly recommend, but I'm still going to recommend it, is urbandictionary.com, specifically for slang words. So if you hear any words or you see any words that are, you don't know what they mean, urbandictionary.com can be a good resource. I just want to warn you, a lot of these words are slang because they're probably not appropriate for work, but it can be good so you don't feel totally out of the loop. Just please, you know, look up with caution, but it can be a good resource for slang words. And so I wanted to close with some meme best practices because we talked about a lot of different stuff here. So first, never underestimate memes. We saw how memes are good about getting attention and connecting with younger audiences. So they're definitely a valuable tool to be used in training. But remember who is going to be your audience. So definitely think about who your intended audience is for. If you're reaching more of younger folks, definitely memes can be good. If it's less of a technologically savvy crowd, maybe memes might not be as useful. And give yourself time to research. Don't just necessarily that you've seen a meme once that you know what to do. Definitely give yourself time. Knowyourmeme.com is a great resource. Make sure that you understand usage. So kind of see how different memes are being used. Look up unfamiliar terms. So we talked about urbandictionary.com, that sort of thing. And also remember, if you have access to somebody under the age of 30, feel free to ask them about meme usage as well. That can be handy. And so these are all good best practices. And then for my final trick, I just have to tell you all that you just got Rickrolled. So I have actually hidden the lyrics to Rick Astley's hit, Never Gonna Give You Up, in the text of this final slide. And this is also an example of a meme. Typically it's tricking people to click a link, but here I've tricked you into hiding it in this text here. So hopefully you all enjoyed that. So thank you very much. Hopefully this inspires you to learn all the memes. And for the person that was asking before about the source for that, here you go. Here's the Know Your Meme link for all the things. And so my name is Rachel Eichen. My email is adverb@gmail.com. I'm also on LinkedIn with Adverb. And then this will be uploaded to SlideShare as well under Adverb. So thank you very much for attending, and I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Great presentation, Rachel. Thank you. Very, very interesting.
Awesome. Cool. And then just so here, I'm going to type the link to the SlideShare just so everyone has it. There you go. I forgot to put the HTTP. There it is. So keep it simple. And thank you for all the lively discussion from everybody too. I appreciated it.
Yes, we are very shy when we're talking, but we're not very shy when we're typing into the chat. I appreciate the fact that you're able to keep up, Rachel, with all of our chatting. And
it was a little tricky because I'll tell you a little presenter secret. I had to keep moving the chat box because there's like sometimes I couldn't see the words and I wanted to make sure I was reading the meme properly, so I did have to move the chat box, which I don't know. I don't think that shows up on the recording, but like I'm moving the chat box over here, but I don't think you guys can see that. No. So, but yeah,
we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out, right? But
somebody's got to learn.
Right. But I can see when there's a chat message, and I guess this version of Zoom, sometimes I can see the chat message, but it's easier just to open the chat and just see. So, but I appreciate everyone attending and everyone's participation, and thanks for the help that some people gave, because I couldn't think of some of the things. So thank you everybody who gave me lines or source materials or things like that, because it is very hard to keep up. So, when I had this presentation in 2016, like I drastically had to change it because memes are ever changing. So it's definitely, you know, there's a lot to keep up in the world of memes.
Fantastic. I learned so much. I feel 10 years younger, but certainly not under 30.
Good line.
Just want to thank everybody for attending. Thank everybody for signing up. And I just want to point out, we are always looking for good content to share with our members. And Rachel, bless her heart, she volunteered for this. We didn't have to hunt you down. And so I know that in the audience, there are probably several really good presentations. So don't be shy about speaking up. And I just want to thank everybody. I am going to stop the recording.
And I'll also add too, one of the reasons I volunteered was because I knew the problem with a meme presentation, if any of you see this and think, oh, I should present on this, it's your presentation's constantly going to be outdated. So the benefit of, I think I had just given a presentation to another group. So I'm like, oh, I better pitch it while it's still relevant. Cause in a year's time, like all this is going to change. So, if you ever see me present like 6 months, a year later on this topic, it'll be totally different because, the stuff's always changing and you always got to keep up with new stuff. So yeah, it can be fun, but it can be also harder than other concepts to speak. So.
Well, we really appreciate you sharing your superpowers with us because you're definitely a rock star in our world. So thank you so much.